area. And I always love this song, even though it's a little tricky for musicians, because I love the reminder, and we'll get into this in our talk today. I love the reminder that we can choose any moment to say, I am new today, in this very moment, in this very moment. And I always love this song, even though it's a little tricky for musicians, because I love the reminder, and we'll get into this in our talk today. I love the reminder that we can choose any moment to say, I am new today, in this very moment, in this very moment. And that really is a great introduction for what we're talking about today and what we're celebrating today. If we were in a traditional Christian church, I would probably walk out, especially if I were in the church of my birth, the Episcopal Church. I'd have a nice robe on and really nice colors now that it's Easter time, and say, Alleluia, Christ is risen. And then you would answer, Christ is risen indeed, or something like that. And for those of you who might have read something that said, if you want an alternative Easter, come and visit us, would be going, well, okay, that didn't sound very alternative, but I didn't see anybody run out of here, so that's good. And that's because this idea of Christ is risen really has a meaning far more universal than the story of the great man and teacher Jesus. It is far more universal. And this idea to celebrate that Christ is risen has meaning and application whether one is Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, agnostic, or anything else you can name. This idea of celebrating the risen Christ, although it is originally attached to a man named Jesus, it means something for us all. And that risen Christ is the possibility, is the symbol of the greater possibility that is available to all of us. To all of us, no matter what we've done, where we've been, what we've thought, if we wake up. Which ties us into our yearly theme. Those of you who've not been with us, our theme this year is being awake to life. And so each month we've looked at aspects of life to become more awake of, more mindful. So this idea that the risen Christ has a meaning and application for each of us is something we need to be awake to. So let's look at that. And first of all, let's review. This month we've been fasting. And again, sounds traditional, but we do it in a new way. Instead of fasting from things we like to eat, like chocolate, I've invited you all to be fasting from complaining, from criticism, from judgment, from fear, from all these habitual things we do that keep us stuck in what's not working. And then finally, last week, Reverend Hollis talked about the biggest negative that is underneath all of these, and in fact fuels them all, which is in the belief in separation. And when we say the belief in separation, we mean the belief that we are somehow separate from God, whether it's because of who we are, whether it's because of something we've done, whether it's because of something somebody told us once about ourselves, this belief that we could ever be separate from God. And out of that, the need to complain, to judge, to criticize, and to be in fear comes. And so last week, Hollis talked about literally, well, not literally, metaphorically dying to that idea. Because I think this part of the Christian year especially has meaning for us, and that idea that we die to old ideas about the world and old ideas about ourselves so that something new can come in. So each year, I like to take that last week to talk about what can we die to, and can we truly die, let go of for good, or let go of maybe another layer of our belief that something separates us from God. Because you see, that idea and then those behaviors that follow it actually keep us in a nightmare. Because as we criticize and complain and judge and find fault with, we do that with ourselves, we do it with others, we do it with our lives. What we're actually doing is affirming the absence of good. And when I say the absence of good, I really mean the absence of the things that we all desire in life. And so as long as we keep affirming good's absence by pointing out what's wrong with everything, what happens? We create more of that experience of absence, because whatever we put our attention in, what we put our eye on, what we think about, what we talk about, what we hang out in, that which creates our consciousness, that is what we create in life. And as our dear friend Emma said, I remind you, I said this a couple weeks ago because it was so great, the world will persist in exhibiting to us whatever it is we persist in affirming. And even when we're criticizing or complaining, we are affirming something. We are always affirming something. But a lot of times we're affirming what we don't want. Oh, man, this really is terrible. Man, this really sucks. This blows. I hate this. That person's such a jerk. We are affirming. I don't know about you, but I don't like a lot of that stuff in my life. And so when our attention, our eye, and our conversation is on that, we are affirming that. And so we keep ourselves wrapped in this nightmare of the not good. And it's because of our belief. It's because of our focus on it that good seems so far away. And then it seems like our world is a nightmare. So it's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. And this is a perfect day to do it. The founder of this particular teaching, which is called The Science of Mind, but which is, again, Jack alluded to, draws from all the world's religions. Ernest Holmes said this about waking up. He said, "The belief in a life apart from good is a dream from which we must awake if we are to taste the waters of reality." And he put a capital R there. The belief in a life apart from good is a dream from which we must awake if we are to taste the waters of reality. And he meant what all the great mystics, which simply means those who spent a lot of time in prayer and contemplation with the infinite, with the divine, with spirit, with God, whatever you want to call it, the whole enchilada. Those people who, through eons, have spent that time in close connection with the God of their being, have seen and spoken about that capital R reality, which is the love, the perfection, the wholeness, the grace that runs through everything, if we would but have eyes to see, if we would wake up and stop talking about putting our attention on the other. So that's our review. We know this stuff. We know this stuff. And so today, I want us to celebrate and move into the greater awakening where we move away from that focus on the small f facts of life into the larger reality, where we have a greater awakening to who and what we are and who and what life is. And first of all, we probably want to know how we can get there. And we could get there by by quitting affirming good's absence. I keep thinking of this great video. Maybe you saw it, Bob Newhart. Hollis, would you please let those folks who are checking out and not sure if they should come in? Thank you. But have you guys seen this video of Bob Newhart, you know, the comedian, and he's playing a therapist, and this woman comes in and he says it usually only takes, you know this one, usually only takes 5 minutes, and she says, 5 minutes, are you sure? And goes through this, and she says she has this phobia, and because she keeps thinking about this thing she's afraid of. And he says, stop it. She says, but you don't see, I have to think of it. He says, stop it. And that's his whole therapeutic thing. Stop it. And of course, it becomes very hilarious as she's like, but then I have this. Well, just stop it. Stop it. And so it's become kind of a joke with my husband and myself, you know, when one of us is doing something, you just stop it. And I know Emma, who was one of Ernest Holmes' teachers, who we call the Nike woman of New Thought, because she was very firm. If she had lived to see that video, and one of you came to her bemoaning all the stuff in your life that wasn't working, she'd say, stop it. I know she would. I know she would. So as much as we can, we stop it. And what do we do then? Then we turn our attention to that reality that we want to see. We turn our attention to the good. We turn our attention to the infinite. We turn our attention to God. And it isn't that we live in la-la land, not seeing what's going on. Is we turn our attention away from what doesn't work to what we want in its stead. And it's amazing, those of you who've gone through this journey this month of stopping yourself from complaining, stopping yourself from criticizing, stopping yourself from judging. And when I say judging, I mean when you have to go, oh, well, I don't like that tie very much. Oh, I don't like what she's wearing. Oh, I don't like the weather today. Why can't it be, you know, judging, judging, judging. Having to call this good and this bad all the time that some of us do, our little judgment machines. So when we stop doing that, we stop doing all those things, kind of let them go out of that mind that's always searching for something that's not working. When we let that go, there's kind of a whole big space in there. If you're like me, you've got kind of a whole big space in which something different can come up. When we stop affirming that our good is far away or absent or just not here, when we stop saying why it isn't and start opening up to the possibility that maybe, even underneath the stuff that we don't love in life, because I know there's stuff up, I know stuff comes up, to know that maybe our good is still at hand. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, not beyond the hand. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is at hand, ready to grasp, ready to take, ready to seize, ready to be known. Even in the midst of anything we could be going through. That when we start opening to that reality, something new can be born in us. And that is that idea of the Christ. When we stop believing what we've been told about original sin, for example, if we grew up in Christianity, stop believing that if there is a God, it's very far off and probably does not want to have anything to do with us. If we can drop all that and open up to see that the truth of each of us is our oneness with God, our oneness with our good, yes, because of our oneness with God, then we start being open to that Christ within us. Because Christ is a principle. It's not a person. It's not Jesus' last name. That the Christ as a title in a sense, was given to him because of the consciousness that he displayed, because of his knowing of his oneness with who he called the Father. And it was not that he was some kind of different being. It was because he was awake, borrowing from Buddha, he was awake to the truth. I and the Father are one. That is who I am. And we believe that he wasn't the great exception. He alone was that. We believe he was the great example, that he was the way shower. That what is true in me is true in all of you. All of you are sons of the Most High, sons and daughters of the Most High. Each of us is a God seed. Each of us has that Christ potential, that knowing of our oneness with God, ready to burst forth when we're not covering it over with all the reasons why we're not okay and the world's not okay, like that. And so that's why I love this time of year, because we can wake up to that Christ within any time. And I think it happens when we prepare. When we prepare by learning what it is time to get rid of, what the cobwebs are that keep us from seeing that Christ within us. Because the illusion that fuels the separation, we each have our own take on it, but it's something like this: that we're not okay the way we are, that we're imperfect, that there's a great flaw, that we're unlovable, that we're not enough. All of those are the illusion that feeds the judgment, the criticism, the complaining, and the separation. And all of those are part of that nightmare. But it's an illusion. I'm going to bring in another metaphor here just because it's a great day. That's why eggs are such a great metaphor. Because the egg has this surface, but there's something greater in the egg than its white shell. There's something much more important, whether it's life as the little baby chick or even the yolk for us to eat and to be fed and nourished by. That the glory of the egg is not the exterior, it's what's inside. And to reveal that what's inside, it has to crack open. And that's what it can feel like when we lay down all these behaviors and beliefs. We can feel cracked open as we die to the ways we've always been. But when we crack open, we see through that illusion of not being okay, and we awaken to this spiritual magnificence that is the truth of us. That is the truth of us. That is the reality that is hidden within each of us. And when we wake up, when we have that greater awakening, then we have a new way we see ourselves. And we have a new way that we think about ourselves and the world. And out of that comes a new way that we live and new choices that we make. And we get to claim in that space of knowing our magnificence, of knowing our oneness, of opening up to the idea that each of us is the Christ, is that oneness with Spirit. Each of us is greater than any point in our history. Even the high points were greater than all of those. And we have the opportunity to claim and know whatever it is we desire. So this year, my invitation is for you to wake up to that notion of the risen Christ in you, of the risen possibility for whatever deep good you are desiring. So what is it for you? What do you want to claim that risen Christ in your life as? It could be greater joy. It could be greater power. It could be meaningful work. It could be deeper, harmonious relationship. It could be greater vitality. That risen Christ in you has a vibration that you get to name, that good you've been longing for and made up reasons why you couldn't have or be, is now ready to be displayed in you, is now ready to burst forth and bloom from you. If you would but see it, awaken to it, and claim it. So in just a minute, I'm going to invite you to activate this. Because this is what we do as human beings. We're in a body, so when we do some things physically, it helps cement them. We have kind of a fun tradition in this church of creating a community bouquet. And so in a few moments, I'm going to invite you to come up, take a flower, and arrange it in this thing so we will have a bouquet. And then you need to take an egg. And in the egg is the reminder that you are the risen Christ, that that lives in you, and a place for you to write and declare what that is for your life. Whether it is that joy, that power, that vitality. And there's also a little chocolate in there because when we get to the truth really is sweet. It's much sweeter than all that other stuff. So what we're going to do, so here's the flowers, and you see the eggs. And, okay. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Because I'd like you to begin to contemplate what this idea of the risen Christ is for you. What is your life opened up to its spiritual magnificence? What is that for you right now? Is it a greater, more intimate relationship? Is it fulfilling and satisfying work? Is it greater harmony? Is it a sense of power and empowerment? Whatever it is, not that any of these are exclusive, but what is it most for you in your life right now? If that risen Christ represents your oneness with the source of all that I call God, then what is it for you? And so sit with that. And as you identify what it is for you, in your own pace, come forward, take a flower, and plant it, so to speak, in the vase to represent your blooming. And take your egg. So Carrie will begin to play in a few moments, and she will have a very easy little chant to remind you of this oneness that fuels it all.
He surprises us with his newness. He surprises us
So,
with his closeness to us.
what is the risen Christ for you?
And that's what Easter Sunday is about. It's about newness. It's about starting again. It's about resurrection. All those wonderful hallelujahs that accompanied us during the liturgy this morning. Beginning again.
I am, we are, God is. Sing it with us.
And so in this consciousness of oneness, we know that we are waking up. We know that we are cracking open. And we know that we stand ready to receive the gift of who we are as that Christ seed blooming. And so I give thanks for that. I give thanks for that knowing. I give thanks for each person's here's contribution, each step taken, each contemplation toward a greater awakening. Knowing that as we do this, as we move in this direction, we are blessed. And our world is blessed by our being awake. And so it is.